אנו מתירים להתפלל עם העבריינים בישיבה של מעלה ובישיבה של מטה, על דעת המקום ועל דעת הקהל. אנו מתירים להתפלל עם העבריינים בישיבה של מעלה ובישיבה של מטה, על דעת המקום ועל דעת הקהל. אנו מתירים להתפלל עם העבריינים.
We're on page 204, at the bottom of the page in the English. By the authority of the court on high, and by the authority of this court below, with divine consent, and with the consent of this congregation, we grant permission to pray with those who have transgressed.
Kol nidre v'sarei v'charamei v'konamei v'chinuyei v'kinusei u'shevuot dindana u'dishtabana u'de'acharim na v'dasana al nafshatana miyom kippurim zeh ad yom kippurim Habalenu letova kulhon icharat navehon kulhon yehon shiran shevikin shevitin betelin umevutalin La sharirin vela kayamin nidrana la nidre vesarana la esare Ushivuatana la Shavuot Kol nidre v'sarei v'charamei v'konamei v'chinuyei v'kinusei u'shavuot dindana u'de'ishtabana u'de'acharim na'ar v'dasana nafshatana miyom kippurim zeh ad yom kippurim Habalenu letova kulhon icharat navehon kulhon yehon shiran shevikin shevitin betelin umevutalin la sharirin vela kayamin nidrana la nidre Sarei. Ushavuatana la shavuot. Kol nidre vesarei. V'charame v'koname v'chinuye v'kinusei u'shavuot din darna u'di shabana u'di acharim na V'dasana al nafshatana miyom kippurim zeh ad yom kippurim haba aleinu letova Kulhon icharat na vehon Kulhon yehon sheran Shavikin Shavitin V'telin u'mevutalin La sharirin v'la kayamin Nidrana la nidre V'sarana la esarei Ushavuatana La Shavuot V'nislach lechol adat b'nei Yisrael v'lager hagar v'tocham ki lechol ha'am bishgaga V'nislach lechol adat b'nei Yisrael v'lager hagar v'tocham ki lechol ha'am bishgaga V'nislach lechol adat b'nei Yisrael v'lager hagar v'tocham ki lechol ha'am bishgaga Silach na la'avon ha'am hazeh kegodel chastecha V'chasher nasata la'am hazeh mimitzrayim v'ad hena V'sham ne'emar Vayomer Adonai salachti kidvarecha Vayomer Adonai salachti kidvarecha Vayomer Adonai salachti kidvarecha Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shehecheyanu V'kivanu V'hiyanu Lazman hazeh
It goes next to that one. We did this in order.
Number 2. Not at all. This is heavy. Of course. Just the curtain.
You may be seated. When we look at history, it's hard not to be struck by how unique and unprecedented it feels to be a Jew in the world today. The focus there is often on the miraculous story of the modern state of Israel, a place where the Hebrew language can once again flourish, a place where everything from street signs to gossip tabloids to TV and radio airwaves drip with Jewish content and Jewish culture. And if only for this reason alone, it would be a success story. As David Ben-Gurion once commented, based on an earlier remark by poet Chaim Nachman Bialik, we will know we have become a normal country when Jewish thieves and Jewish prostitutes conduct their business in Hebrew. A place with a Jewish military and Jewish leaders, political leaders. A place where Jewish holidays and Jewish ritual concerns are everywhere. And a place where almost everyone takes anti-Semitism very seriously. It's also, as it happens, a place where almost everything can get taken pretty seriously, including an ice cream embargo. The short version of that story many of you already know. Earlier this year, an ice cream giant, Ben & Jerry's, originally founded by 2 Jewish men from Vermont, decided to end sales of their ice cream in Israeli settlements over the Green Line. After some back and forth with their local franchisee in Israel, the company has then now decided that it plans to end all sales of their ice cream in Israel sometime after 2022. Everyone, I'm sure, has their opinions about the Ben & Jerry's affair, and we shouldn't casually dismiss any delegitimation of Israel on the world stage, whether that is in politics, in sports, or even in ice cream. At the end of the day, it does feel a little strange, though, doesn't it? Ice cream? If you could travel back in time and tell a younger me living in Jerusalem 10 years ago that dairy products and the future of Israel would be wrapped up together in breaking news headlines, well, actually, I would have believed you. See, I might have said, you mean like these cottage cheese protests that are happening right now in 2011? We're overwhelmed sometimes by a sense that nothing ever seems to change with respect to worldwide Jewish news, except maybe to get worse. So you could have gone on and added the kicker. No, not like the cottage cheese protests. This time, it comes with international anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism and a heaping helping of existential dread. And again, because of that, I would have believed you. If we reflect on the uptick in anti-Semitic incidents in the United States and across the world in recent years, there's a pattern that emerges and an oft-lamented narrative that accompanies it, that of the eternal anti-Semitism. that a hatred of Jews is something we will always have to contend with in one form or another, because it's baked into the world we live in. In this narrative, any person we encounter might be a hidden anti-Semite, or they might be a future potential anti-Semite. Perhaps there's something in the water or something in the air. Nothing can be done about it. Everyone carries a latent anti-Semite gene, and at any given moment, the right combination of factors might come along and activate it, transforming them into a murderous villain. This simple explanation answers a host of questions and concerns about contemporary anti-Semitic rhetoric and violence, delegitimation of Israel, and really the whole history of European Jewry, from medieval Spain to the Holocaust. It could even go back to explain events of the Hebrew Bible in the books of the Maccabees, how Pharaoh and Haman and Antiochus could have been such vicious haters of our people, why Lavan, Amalek, and Balak, king of Moab, could have tried so hard to destroy us. But there's a problem with this approach to anti-Semitism. If it really is just a fact of the world, if the world itself really is just inherently hostile to Jews, then there are two possibilities. The first would be that the world itself, God's world, the world of God's law and God's order, is wrong. It was created wrong. And if this is the case, I'm not sure how we can make any claim to morality or to trying to be good people, trying to follow the good principles that we believe to lie at the heart of God's universe, if they're not there. We could only lay claim to the primacy of survival, power, control. These are what matters in that world, and perhaps could make for us a God more worthy of our worship and reverence than the one that encompasses vague ideas of justice and compassion. Needless to say, I don't think much of that answer. The other possibility: there's nothing wrong with the world. There's something wrong with us. We're wrong for being Jewish, in which case this Yom Kippur we need to offer everyone, perhaps even God, a heartfelt apology for being out of sync with the world, and out of sync with reality. That sounds absurd, right? But think about it. The anti-Semites of the world cite various grievances as a justification for their hate, and yet, if we could be so certain that the hate would always exist under any circumstances, and that it's not about those particular anti-Semites, it's not about those particular grievances, then there's really only one other culprit here: us, our Jewishness. Jewishness itself becomes the reason for anti-Semitism in the first place, and it would follow the only way to make anti-Semitism disappear would be to renounce Jewishness altogether. There's a famous story told about Louis Brandeis, late Supreme Court Justice, ardent Zionist, and fierce defender of free speech and the right to privacy. Admitted to Harvard at age 18, at a time when anti-Semitism was rampant and Jewish participation in academic institutions was limited by quotas, he went on to distinguish himself greatly, graduating at age 20 as one of the school's most brilliant students, with the highest grade point average in the school's history. Time and again, during his studies, Brandeis had been told that he would have a great career if only he weren't a Jew. Why not simply convert to Christianity, his friends wanted to know. When he became the first Jew inducted into a prestigious honor society there at Harvard, he had a public forum for addressing that very question. He came to the podium and, as many of you know, said, "I am sorry that I was born a Jew." As the story goes, the anti-Semites in the room applauded loudly. And then he went on and said, "As I say, I am sorry I was born a Jew, but only because I wish I'd had the privilege of choosing Judaism on my own." For Brandeis, living in the late 19th century, Jewishness came with a host of problems and complications, but it also came with a number of positive things: a love of learning, a sense of peoplehood, and a deep devotion to moral duty, doing right by one's fellow human beings and one's fellow Jews. Brandeis understood something that his anti-Semitic acquaintances could not: that to be Jewish is only one mode of existing, one identity, very much like many others out there. But anti-Semites, and many Jews, unfortunately, have a myopic tendency to divide the world into two categories: the Jewish and the non-Jewish, making Jewishness absolutely central to every issue and every problem. We might come to a discussion about funding for Hopi language education on a reservation in Arizona and ask ourselves with all seriousness, yes, but is it good for the Jews? And no doubt the anti-Semite will ask similarly, and how are the Jews trying to exploit me this time? So, why did I choose to talk about this topic tonight, of all the things I could be talking about on Yom Kippur? There are a few reasons. For starters, I believe it's an important subject for your consideration, and I knew I would have an audience. But there's more. I believe that many of us here tonight subscribe, whether we mean to or not, to the eternal anti-Semitism idea, and that it is time to repent of this idea, time to give it up. It is, if you'll excuse me, an unsophisticated way of dealing with a very sophisticated problem. And whether it means to or not, it blames the victims for that problem. We're not responsible for the hatred that others direct our way, and we're not the center of the universe. We're central to our own religious and cultural narrative, but that's not the same thing. So I'd like to suggest an alternative way of looking at the current problem of anti-Semitism, that we stop taking the easy road. The world isn't divided into two kinds of people. It isn't even divided into 200 or 2,000 kinds of people. No two people are the same. As our sages taught in Tosefta, this is what makes God a different kind of king from a human one. A human stamps several coins with one seal, and they are all similar to one another. But the Holy One, blessed be He, stamps all people with the seal of Adam Kadmon, the first man, and not one of them is similar to another. We recognize, of course, that there are some things that all or most Jews have in common, and that distinguish our community from other communities, that bind it together. At the same time, there's an important sense in which we're not entirely unique among humanity either. We're not, in our history, wholly unlike the Armenians or the Roma, not completely unlike the Uyghurs of China or the Tibetans. We're not unlike Christians in some ways, and we're not unlike Muslims in others. We even have quite a few things in common with Hindus, Buddhists, and Confucians. In encountering anti-Semitism in our world today, whether it's a racial or religious hatred of Jews as individuals, an application of double standards to Jews collectively or to the state of Israel in particular, or simply a proliferation of stereotypes, the good, the bad, and the indifferent, we must keep the focus on the problem itself, not on our insecurities about being Jewish or being different. When we deal with communities that harbor anti-Semitic prejudices, we deal with communities of individuals, unique individuals, with unique levers and pulleys that motivate their thinking, their behavior, and yes, even their attitudes toward Jews, Judaism, and Israel. The power of our own relationships with those individuals is something we must not underestimate. I am not going to tell you to go out there and hug an anti-Semite. Rather, try this. The next time you hear someone say something that makes you uncomfortable, makes you realize they have some negative ideas about the Jewish community, try asking questions. Try finding out if they really understand what our culture and our people and our religion are all about. Invite them to a Jewish event. Invite them to a synagogue service, even a Shabbat dinner. Don't just chalk it up to the awful anti-Semitic world we live in. Don't just retreat from the conversation or from that world, because you have every bit as much of a right to exist in it as they do. Believe that. I'll now turn the stage, as it were, over to Bill Friedman, our president, for the Kol Nidre appeal.
As we emerge from the worst and most deadly period of the COVID-19 pandemic, or I should say, as we hope we will so emerge, and since I now have the privilege of giving to you my 12th High Holiday and Teal presentation, I thought this new year of 5782 is the perfect time to invoke pleasant memories of activities that have given us pleasure since we were first read to as very small children. The glory of literature, and in particular, distinctively American literature and use it as a touchstone for talking about our collective Jewish experience and the flourishing Jewish future that Rabbi Farrow posited and which we all desire. Bull Durham is a 1988 American romantic comedy sports film. You didn't think you were going to hear this in a Kol Nidre appeal, did you? It depicts the players and fans of the Durham Bulls, a minor league baseball team in Durham, North Carolina. The film stars Kevin Costner as Crash Davis, a veteran catcher brought in to teach rookie pitcher Ebby Calvin Nuke LaLoosh about the game in preparation for reaching the major leagues. Baseball groupie Annie Savoy, played by Susan Sarandon, romances Nuke but finds herself increasingly attracted to Crash. In her narration that opens the film, Annie Savoy gives us these insights that we can use as contrast media in which to test our connections to our Jewish beliefs, our synagogue's role in sustaining and enriching those beliefs, and the larger enterprise of engaging the overwhelming majority of Jews who are young adults, young marrieds, and families with at least one Jewish adult with young children. Those who, in the words of the Pew Research Center's 2020 survey of Jewish Americans, are Jews of no religion, people who see themselves as Jewish for cultural, ethnic, or family reasons, but who don't identify with Judaism as a religion at all. Now, here is Annie Savoy, who fits quite comfortably into that cohort. I believe in the Church of Baseball. I've tried all the major religions and most of the minor ones. I've worshipped Buddha, Allah, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, trees, mushrooms, and Isadora Duncan. I prefer metaphysics to theology. You see, there's no guilt in baseball, and it's never boring. The only church that truly feeds the soul day in and day out is the Church of Baseball. Now, in that list, what religion did Annie fail to try? Judaism. Indeed, for all her brave talk, Annie is in fact a lonely and isolated individual lacking a meaningful and fulfilling purpose. She's shown in the movie trudging alone in the rain from a near-empty minor league stadium to a similarly empty home. We're not sitting in the Church of Baseball, but one, our Jewish soul doesn't traffic in guilt, and two, as in baseball, we all wear a number of hats. First, many of us are devoted and very active and involved spectators. We attend services in person, online, by live stream. Over the past year, virtually all of our services have offered at least one virtual option, and more recently, a return to in-person services. Your financial investment in our High Holiday Appeal last year enabled us to employ technicians who dynamically operate our live stream camera for our holiday service observance and for special ritual events. Hara, thank you very much. Many of us, in addition to being spectators, are players. We participate in the game of Jewish continuity, from our High Holiday ushers, our daily Shabbat and holiday service leaders, Torah and Haftorah readers, to the volunteers who work in our kitchen, and they are back to our culinary delight, to the volunteers who set up various venues. We live and engage with the great project of Jewish life. We participate in the plethora of Jewish learning opportunities our synagogue presents. In fact, few synagogues in the U.S. of any size have undertaken the educational and social outreach programming that our synagogue has mounted. We do more programming in the last 6 months than did Park Avenue Synagogue. How do we make this all possible? Your willingness to participate financially in our High Holiday Appeal turns on the lights, grooms the field, supplies the equipment, and enables us to employ talented professionals. It's a delicate and difficult task to predict future success. We always do our best to calibrate our various ritual and cultural programs to engage you and your children and your grandchildren or their friends, and success can be so tantalizingly close. Let's go back to Bull Durham. Here is some advice we might find relevant from the mouth of Crash Davis, that well-traveled minor league player whose task was to groom Nuke LaLoosh. Do you remember the scene? Nuke comes to the pool hall to tell Crash great news. He's been called up to the majors. Crash, though, is staring his own baseball mortality in the face. The kid he mentored is going to be living Crash's dream. Here's what Crash says. You know what the difference is between hitting 250 and hitting 300? It's 25 hits. 25 hits and 500 at-bats is 50 points, okay? There's 6 months in a season. That's about 25 weeks. That means if you get just one extra flare a week, just one, a gork, a ground ball with eyes, you get a dying quail, just one more dying quail a week, and you're in Yankee Stadium. Our high holiday appeal mirrors this statistical truth. Our high holiday appeal funds 50% of our operating budget. It keeps the lights on, it funds our activities, it provides the resources we need to pursue a full-throated engagement effort at those young adults and families with young children. And it's an activity in which all of us can participate. Every high holiday appeal pledge makes a difference. If we get just one extra pledge per week, we turn our synagogue into Yankee Stadium. If you haven't made your high holiday appeal pledge, please consider making one. If you've made a high holiday appeal pledge and you want to provide us with that one more dying quail, please feel free to go to ShulCloud to call the office, send us a text, hit us a foul ball that you want to increase your high holiday appeal pledge. Let's close with a bracing piece of advice from Crash Davis. Don't try and strike everybody out. Strikeouts are boring. Besides that, they're fascist. Throw some ground balls, it's more democratic. On behalf of our staff, officers, trustees, and our hardworking High Holiday Appeal Committee, whose members include Herb Brass, Alan Rowell, Henry Fenichel, and Matt Lee, thanks to you for throwing those ground balls, those extra base hits, and those home runs, that is, for participating in or considering how you can participate in our High Holiday Appeal. May we all celebrate a Shana Tova, a year in which we are inscribed in the Book of Life.
Thank you, Bill. Our service will continue on page 207, page 207. Please rise for Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
You may be seated.
Umavir yom umevi laila umavdil ben yom uben laila Adonai tzvaot shemo el chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed Baruch ata Adonai hama'ariv aravim. Amen. Yisrael. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, והם נהגי יומם ולילה, ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha, ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha, v'shinamta b'lefanecha v'dibarta bam בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשכבך ובקומך, וקשתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. Adonai Elohechem emet. ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ובני ישראל, לך אנו שירה בשמחה רבה, ואמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדב הקודש, נורות תהילות חוסד ולב. מלכותך ראו בניך בוקע ים לפני משה, זה אלי אנו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
We'll read responsively on page 211.
Allow us, Adonai, our God, to sleep peacefully and to awaken again to life, our sovereign.
Spread over us your canopy of peace, restore us with your good counsel, and save us for the sake of your name.
Shield us, remove from us enemies and pestilence, sword, starvation, and sorrow, and remove the evil forces that surround us.
Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, for you, God, watch over and deliver us. You are sovereign, merciful, and compassionate.
Ensure our going and coming for life and peace, now and forever.
May you spread over us your canopy of peace.
Baruch atah Adonai, spread the canopy of peace over us.
and over all the people of Israel, and over Jerusalem.
ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום מעתה ועד עולם, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. ברוך אתה אדוני, הפורס סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים. כי ביום הזה יכפר עליכם וטהרתכם מכל חטאותיכם לפני אדוני תטהרו.
We rise on page 212.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברך קירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירן בעלמא דאמרו amen.
A silent Amidah begins on page 213. Please be seated when you are done with your own prayers. If you are completing your own Amidah, particularly if you are completing your own confessional at this time, please continue. The rest of you I will invite to continue with me on page 223 as we begin our Selichot with a piyut on page 223.
Ya'aleh tachanunenu me'erev Yavo shavatenu miboker V'yira'eh rinunenu V'yira'eh rinunenu V'yira'eh rinunenu V'yira'eh Ya'aleh koleinu me'erev Yahavo tzidkatenu miboker V'yira'eh v'yidonenu V'yira'eh v'yidonenu V'yira'eh v'yidonenu V'yira'eh Ya'aleh inu yehenu me'erev Yahavo slichateanu miboker V'yira'eh ma'akatenu V'yira'eh ma'akatenu V'yira'eh ma'akatenu V'yira'eh ma'akatenu
boker. Yera'eh kiburenu ad arev. Ya'aleh yishenu me'arev. Yahavo tacharenu biboker. Yera'eh chinunenu ad arev. Ya'aleh zichronenu me'erev. Yahavo v'yudenu miboker. Ya'reah chadratenu ad arev. Ya'aleh v'davkenu me'erev. Yahavo gilenu miboker. V'yira'eh bakashatenu, v'yira'eh bakashatenu, v'yira'eh bakashatenu, v'yira'eh bakashatenu, Arev. Ya'aleh enkatenu me'erev, v'yahavo elecha mi boker. V'yira'eh eleinu, v'yira'eh eleinu, v'yira'eh eleinu, v'yira'eh eleinu,
Page 224. All flesh comes to you, you who hear prayer.
All flesh
Shall come to worship you, Adonai.
They shall come to bow down before you, Adonai, and they will pay honor to your name.
Come, let us sing to Adonai, cry out to the stronghold of our deliverance.
Let us greet God with thanks and sing songs of praise.
The sea belongs to God, God made it. The land was created by God's hands.
In God's hand is every living soul and the breath of all human flesh. Page 225.
הנשמה לך והגוף פעלך חוסה חוסה על עמלך. הנשמה לך והגוף שלך אדוני עשה למען שמך. עתנו על שמך אדוני עשה למען שמך. בעבור כבוד שמך כי אל חנון ורחום שמך. למען שמך אדוני וסלחת לעווננו כי רב הוא.
Page 226. God, you are patient. You are known as the source of mercy. You taught the way of repentance. Today and every day, call to mind the wonder of your compassion and mercy toward the children of those you love. Turn toward us in mercy, for you are the source of mercy. Together, We approach your presence with supplication and prayer, and with the words you revealed to Moses, the humble one, long ago. Turn away from wrath, and let us nestle under your wings. As it is written in your Torah, about the day God descended in a cloud, overlooked sin, blot out guilt, as on the day God stood beside him. Hear our cry, attend our plea, as on the day he called the name Adonai.
ויעבור אדוני על פניו ויקרא אדוני אדוני אל רחום וחנון אל אפיים ורב חסד ואמת נוצר חסד לאלפים נושא עוון ופשע וחטא ונקה וסלחת לעווננו ולחטאתנו ונחתנו סלח לנו אבינו כי חטאנו מחל לנו מלכנו כי פשענו כי אתה אדוני טוב וסלח ורב חסד לכל קוראיך.
Page 227. Kihinek Achomer? As we're on page 227. As clay in the hand of the potter who thickens or thins it at will, so are we in your hand, guardian of love. As stone in the hand of the mason who preserves or breaks it at will, so are we in your hand, God of life and death. As iron in the hand of the blacksmith who forges or withdraws it at will, so are we in your hand, support of the poor. As the helm in the hand of the sailor who holds the course or abandons it at will, so are we in your hand, good and forgiving God. As glass in the hand of the glazier who shapes or melts it at will, so are we in your hand, pardoner of sin and transgression. As cloth in the hand of the draper who drapes or twists it at will, so are we in your hand, righteous God. As silver in the hand of the smelter who alloys or refines it at will, so are we in your hand, healer of wounds. Page 229. Please rise.
אל מלך יושב על כיסא רחמים, מתנהג בחסידות, מוחל עוונות עמו, מעביר ראשון ראשון, מרבה מחילה לחטאים וסליחה לפושעים, עושה צדקות עם כל בשר ורוח, לא חרתם תגמול. אל הורית לנו לומר 13, זכר לנו היום ברית 13, כמו שהודעת לעניו מקדם, כמו שכתוב, וירד אדוני בענן ויתייצב עמו שם, ויקרא בשם אדוני, ויעבור אדוני על פניו, ויקרא אדוני אדוני אל ואמת, נוצר חסד לאלפים, נושא עוון ופשע וחטא ונקה, וסלחת לעווננו ולחטאתנו ונחלתנו. סלח לנו אבינו כי חטאנו, מחל לנו מלכנו כי פשענו, כי אתה אדוני טוב וסלח ורב חסד לכל קוראיך.
Page 231. Adonai, where shall I find you? High and hidden is your place, and where shall I not find you? The world is full of your glory. I sought your closeness, I called to you with all my heart, and going out to meet you, I found you coming toward me. We'll rise again on page 232.
אל מלך יושב על כיסא רחמים, מתנהג בחסידות, מוחל עוונות עמו, מעביר ראשון, מרבה מחילה לחטאים וסליחה לפושעים, עושה צדקות עם כל בשר ורוח, לא חטאם תגמול. אל הורית לנו לומר 13, זכר לנו היום ברית 13, כמו שהודעת לעניו מקדם, כמו שכתוב, וירד אדוני בענן ויתייצב עמו שם, ויקרא בשם אדוני, ויעבור אדוני על פניו ויקרא, אדוני, אדוני, אל רחום וחנון, אל כפיים ורב חסד ואמת, נוצר חסד לאלפים, נושא עוון ופשע וחטא ונקה, וסלחת לעווננו ולחטאתנו ונחלתנו. סלח לנו אבינו כי חטאנו, מחל לנו מלכנו כי פשענו, כי אתה אדוני טוב וסלח ורב חסד לכל קוראיך.
We read responsively on the bottom of page 232. Listen to our prayers, God. Hear our pleading, our sorrow-filled voices.
Our sovereign, our God, make haste to hear, we pray.
May your ear hear and your eyes open to the prayers of your servants, the people Israel.
In our heavenly abode, may you hear their pleas and prayers, respond to what they ask.
May you forgive your people who have sinned against you.
As a parent looks kindly on a child, may you, God, look kindly on us.
Salvation is Adonai's alone. 4 blessings on your people forever. Adonai Tzvaot is with us, our support, the God of Jacob, forever.
Blessed is the one who trusts in you, Adonai Tzvaot.
Adonai, save us. Surely the Sovereign One will respond to us on the day we call out. As befits your abundant love, please forgive this people's sin, just as you have always forgiven this people from the time of the Exodus from Egypt until now. When Moses recited this prayer, it is recorded, Adonai said, I forgive, as you asked.
סלח נא לעוון העם הזה כגודל חסדך, וכאשר נסעת לעם הזה ממצרים ועד הנה, ושם נאמר, ויאמר אדוני סלחתי כדבריך, ויאמר אדוני סלחתי כדבריך, ויאמר אדוני סלחתי כדבריך.
We'll turn to page 233, the second paragraph, and we will rise once more.
שמע קולנו, אדוני אלוהינו, חוס ורחם עלינו, וקבל ברחמים וברצון את תפילתנו. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva chadesh yamenu kekedem. Al tashlichenu milfanecha v'ruach kadshecha al tikach mimenu. Al tashlichenu le'et zikna kichlot kochenu al tazvenu.
We continue on page 234.
Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu Selach lanu Mechal lanu Kaper lanu Ki anu Amecha Ve'ata Eloheinu Anu Vanecha Ve'ata Avinu Anu Avadecha Ve'ata Adonenu Anu Ke'alecha Ve'ata Chelkenu Anu Nachlatecha Ve'ata Goralenu Anu Tzonecha Ve'ata Ro'enu Anu Chamecha Ve'ata Notrenu Anu Fe'ulatecha Ve'ata Yotzrenu Anu Rayatecha Ve'ata Dodenu Anu Segulatecha Ve'ata Krovenu Anu Amecha Ve'ata Malkenu Anu Ma'amirecha Ve'ata Ma'amirenu Anu Azefanim Ve'ata Rachum V'chanun Anu Kshe Oref Ve'ata Erech Apayim Anu Melei Avon Ve'ata Melei Rachamim Anu Yamenu Ketzel Over Ve'atahu Ushnotecha Lo Yitamu.
Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu Tavol levanecha tefilatenu ve'atitalach mibchinatenu she'ein anachnu azefanim ukshei oref lomar lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu tzadikim anachnu ve'lo chatanu aval anachnu chatanu aval anachnu chatanu.
Rise on page 235.
Ay, 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 ay. Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu, Dibarnu Dofi, Ay, 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 Hevinu, Lishanu, Zadnu, Hamasnu, Tafalnu Shekem, Ay, 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 Yatznu Ra, Hizavnu, Latznu, Maradnu, Niyatznu, Saranu, Avinu, Hashanu, Saranu, Kishinu Oref, Ay, 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 Rashanu, Shichatnu, Tiavnu, Tainu, Titanu, Sarnu mimisvotecha mishpatecha hatovim velo shavalanu ve'ata tzadik al kol haba aleinu ki emet asita va'anachnu hirshanu.
Page 235 at the top. We abuse, we betray, we are cruel, we destroy, we embitter, we falsify, we gossip, we hate, we insult, we jeer, we kill, we lie, we mock, we neglect, we oppress, we pervert, we quarrel, we rebel, we steal, we transgress, we are unkind, we are violent, we are wicked, we are extremists, we yearn to do evil, we are zealous for bad causes. Okay, turn to page 237. Continue at the top with the longer confession, the Al-Khet.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך ביצר הרע, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך ביודעים ובלא יודעים. ועל כולם אלוה סליחות, סלח לנו, מחל לנו, על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בעיניים רמות, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך בעזות מצח. ועל כולם אלוה סליחות, סלח לנו, מחל לנו, כפר לנו. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בתשומת יד, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך בדמיון לבב.
ועל כולם אל הסליחות, סלח לנו מחלנו, סלח לנו מחלנו, כפר לנו.
Page 239, we'll read the upper left.
Our ancestors and us, throughout the long hours of prayer, we speak of all the reasons why God should care for us and forgive us. Our remorse, our atonement, our acknowledgement, our wrongdoing, God's own promise of mercy, God's wish to be known in the world as loving. In this prayer, we call on our association with our ancestors who were cared for by God. We subtly imply that since we are their children, we have inherited their spiritual legacy. In placing our own prayer in the context of theirs, perhaps what is implied as well is that we seek to live our lives in accordance with that which gave them honor.
Turn to page 242 and read at the bottom of the page responsively. God of mercy, who answers the poor, answer us.
May the merciful one who answers the downtrodden answer us.
God of mercy, who answers the brokenhearted, answer us.
May the merciful one answer us.
God of mercy, pity us.
May the merciful one redeem us.
God of mercy, save us.
May the merciful one have compassion on us, speedily, now and in time to come.
Turn to page 243. Please rise for Avinu Malkeinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chatan Chanecha, Malkeinu אבינו מלכנו, החזירנו בתשובה שלמה לפניך. אבינו מלכנו, שלח רפואה שלמה לחולי עמך. אבינו מלכנו, זכרנו בזיכרון טוב לפניך. אבינו מלכנו, כתבנו בספר חיים טובים. אבינו מלכנו, כתבנו בספר גאולה וישועה. אבינו מלכנו, כתבנו בספר פרנסה וכלכלה. אבינו מלכנו, כתבנו בספר זכויות. אבינו מלכנו, כתבנו בספר סליחה ומחילה. אבינו מלכנו, Chanenu banenu, Avinu malkeinu, Chanenu banenu, Ki en banu masim. Aseh imanu, Tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu, Tzedaka v'chesed, V'hoshienu.
We remain standing as we turn to page 245.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabban.
Amen.
V'yalema divrav kiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh b'chayechon uvyom echon uv'chayed echol beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imeru amen.
Amen. Yehi shmei Rabban mevarach le'olam almei almaya yitbarach.
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudesha brichu. Le'ela le'ela mikol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata tamiran be'alma v'imeru amen. Titkal batzloton uba'uton dechol Yisrael kadam avuhon divishmaya v'imeru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imeru amen. Oseh shalom b'rovav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol Yisrael v'imeru amen.
We remain standing as we turn to page 246.
Aleinu l'shabeach Adon hakol, latet gidula liyotzeh breshit, shelo asanu k'goyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu k'mishpechot adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu k'chol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד.
You may be seated. We turn now to Kaddish Tome, the Mourner's Kaddish, on page 247. We observe today, the 10th of Tishrei, in our congregation 1 yard site, that of Lee S. Weisberg. And we will also observe later in the week that of Sidney Mossman as well. We think at this time of a number of individuals whom we have lost in our community or in our circles of concern over the course of the last year. Among those, Sandy Schramm, Helene Katz, Evelyn Seltzer, Pat Keeler, Marge Reiter, Amy Perlman, Norm Epstein, Paul Bassa, Steve Blyer, Bernie Kiwi, Ron Kabikoff, Dan Geyer, Charles Albright, Bernie Slavitt, and Elaine Beagleson. If there is anyone else you are thinking of, particularly at this time, and would like to mention by name, I will invite you to do so. Kaddish Shaton, Mourner's Kaddish, is on page 247. If you are reciting, whether you're joining us here in person or joining us via live stream, I will invite you to join with me at this time. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabba.
Amen.
V'alama tivra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayeichon v'yomeichon v'chayei v'chol beit Yisrael v'agala u'vizman karir v'imru Amen. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitha'ar v'yithromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei kudshav v'reichu La'ela mikol birchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechamata ta'amiran ba'alama v'imru Amen. V'hei shalama rabba mishmaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Osei shalom b'imroma u'ya'asei shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Turn to page 248 for the Psalm for the season, Psalm 27. The David Adonai Rivishi Mimira
Lulemanti lirot b'tov Adonai be'eretz chayim kaveh el Adonai chazak v'yamet libecha v'kaveh el Adonai.
Announcements.
Announcements. Well, of course, thank you to all of you who volunteered to help make these high holiday services take place. Our choir, our service leaders, Torah and Haftorah readers, and our shofar blowers, the flowers donated by Joe and Karen Lazier and by Lois Pornoy, our silver polishers, our ushers, those who volunteered for setup and takedown, and our true blue corps of volunteers who have worked in our kitchen. There are 70 volunteers who made this possible. I won't read the names. We'll publish them all. High holiday services continue tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Our Shachrit service begins at 9. The Torah service will take place at approximately 10 a.m. Yizkor is about 10:30 a.m. or so. Our Mincha afternoon service begins at 5 p.m. There may be a short presentation of the book of Jonah, which will take place at around 4:45 p.m. Our learning session takes place at 5:45 p.m. Rabbi Pharaoh, Scott Casbier, the pastor at Zion United Church of Christ, and a representative of our Cincinnati Zoroastrian community will be joining in a panel discussion on making communities welcome and inclusive while rooted in tradition. Our Ne'ilah service will begin at 7:15 p.m. and the fast ends at 8:25 p.m. Please feel free to pick up a copy of our NHS High Holiday Greeting Book. Thanks to everyone who contributed to this year's program, and to Karen Schlesinger and to Jeff Basson for organizing, designing, and printing the High Holiday Greeting Book. Tomorrow you'll be able to pick up the Yizkor book for those of you who are joining us on live stream and who received either our weekly update or Rabbi Pharaoh's Yom Kippur announcement. You can click on the link and download the Yizkor book. Thanks to Judy Knapp for so capably contacting families who previously participated and for coordinating the publication of this new edition of the Yizkor book. Many of you may observe people bringing in bags of food. Our project Isaiah, to support the Heldman Family Food Pantry, which is part of the Jewish Family Services Bardash Family Vital Support Center, continues to collect food from us. Please feel free to bring your bag either tomorrow or during the month of September. You can leave it on the stage in our Zorndorf Social Hall. We'll then arrange to transport our donations to the food pantry. And we have plenty of volunteer opportunities that are still available. In particular, Rabbi Schapper is looking for volunteers for the Ish Festival and to pack and deliver goodie boxes for the month of Mar Peshvan. After Yom Kippur concludes, please contact Rabbi Schapper if you wish to volunteer. Sukkot, Shmini Atzeret, and Simchat Torah are just around the corner. I want to highlight one particular feature of that observance. Our Simchat Torah at Northern Hills Synagogue is back on Tuesday, September the 28th at 6 p.m., COVID permitting, for an evening of music, dancing, alcohol for adults, sugar for the kids. They'll be more energized than you will, and lots of Torah. Our services will continue, as I said, tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.
Page 250, we'll conclude with Yigdal.
Yigdal Elohim chai ve'yishtabach nimtza ve'ened el metziuto echad ve'en yachid ke'ichudo nelam gam en sof le'achduto en lo demut haguf ve'eno guf lo na'och elav kedushato kadmo l'chol davar asher nivra Rishon ben Reshit l'Reshito Hino Adon Olam bechol nosar Yoreh gedulato umalchuto shefa nevuato Netano el anshe segulato betifato lo kam Yisrael kemo she'od navi umabit et emunato Torah temet natan le'amoel ayad nevio nema בבניין ביתו, לא יחליף האל ולא ימיר דעתו לעולמים לזולתו, צופה ויודע סתרנו, מביט לסוף דבר בקדמתו, גומל לאיש חסד כמפעלו, נותן לרשע כרישתו, ישלח לקץ ימין משיחנו, לפדות מחכה קץ ישועתו, מתים יחייל ברוב חסדו, ברוך עד שם תהילתו, מתים יחייל ברוב חסדו, ברוך עד שם תהילתו.
Please rise. A meditation on the Vidui. For the sins I've committed against myself and for the sins I've committed against others, I offer a new heart. For the sins I've committed against my family and for the sins I've committed against my friends, I offer a new understanding. For the sins I've committed against children and for the sins I've committed against adults, I offer restraint. For the sins I've committed against neighbors and for the sins I've committed against strangers, I offer a new insight. For the sins I've committed against the powerful and for the sins I've committed against the weak, I offer new wisdom. For the sins I've committed against nations and the sins I've committed against peoples, I offer a new voice. God of generations, source of forgiveness and grace, for the sins that I remember and for the sins that I've forgotten, I offer myself in humble service to you, your word, and your holy name. L'shana tova techatemu, may you be sealed for a year of blessing and good things, and may if you have an easy and meaningful fast if you're observing.
Thank you, that was lovely. That was really...
What time do we have to be here tomorrow?
It starts at 10, but I
you get derailed. It was great, thank you.
What time do you want us here? Oh, I like coming for the tourist group.
Here, you were saying. Saturday service is a good time.
Well, I like to be here for the tourist service.